my name is Michael Gallagher, and welcome to Civic Sanctuary. Civic Sanctuary is a monthly, hour-long program on matters of civic relevance to the greater Lowell community, and sponsored and produced by the nonpartisan voting rights organization, Lowell Votes. Today's topic is one of great concern to Lowellians, housing, and we have assembled a truly expert panel of local folks on this panel. To my far left is someone whom you all know well. He is the immediate past mayor of the city of Lowell. Ed Kennedy has served on the Lowell City Council for a number of terms. The first time when he was probably in his teens. He served from 78 to 85 and then took a little bit of a hiatus, Ed, and came back in 2011, served in 13, 15, 17, and from 16 to 18 had a great stint as the mayor of the city of Lowell, and thank you for your service in that regard.
Thank you.
What people may not know so much about, and folks know Ed very well, is that he is a self-employed as a commercial real estate appraiser. Ed's a graduate of BU and holds a master's degree in public administration from Framingham State Universities, but he's been in the commercial real estate field as an appraiser for a good many years. So thank you very much for joining us, Ed.
Happy to be here.
To his right is Ray Booten. You may know Ray, too, from his political service. Ray has served very admirably as a member of the Greater Lowell Votes School Committee, but he's also, during the day, he is a general real estate appraiser in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. He's done that for over 20 years, and he serves as the owner of Booten Appraisals. He's also a real estate agent with RE/MAX Partners in Lowell and a broker for over 20 years as well in both Massachusetts and New Hampshire. So you've got lots of hats that you're wearing today. Ray, welcome and thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And to my right is Ed Alcantara. Those of you who might have purchased a home over the last number of years probably know Ed. Ed is a home buyer counselor with Merrimack Valley Partnership, a housing partnership run, of course, by our good friend Jim Wild. And over the last decade or so, he has counseled over 2,000 families to prepare them for becoming homeowners. Ed has a business degree from Salem State College and extensive experience working in the home buying arena. As a matter of fact, before working as a counselor, Ed worked as a lender and an insurance agent, and it says here that he loves helping people become responsible and sustainable home buyers. Thank you, Ed, very much for joining us.
Absolutely, thank you, and I'm glad to be part of this panel, and hopefully we can give people some insight and bring up a very pertinent topic.
Great. All right, let's start at the start. We like to start in this program, Ed, from 30,000 feet, and you've lived here for many years and been a member of our political class for many years and served as mayor. I remember when I ran back in the, whenever it was, the 90s, I think it was, we had a candidate whom they called the robo-candidate. Remember Jimmy Kennedy? Great guy.
Yes.
And Jimmy claimed to have knocked on every door in the city of Lowell when he ran for school committee. Now, at the time, I thought he said it was about 5,000 doors, but I'm assuming there are more homes in the city of Lowell. Do you have any sense, at least in a general way, of the number of single-family homes, rental units, both together here in the city of Lowell today?
The number that is in my mind is a little bit north of 40,000. You know, we're a population now in the city of 110,000, better than 110,000. Right. And we have a lot of units in the downtown area now that we didn't have. And many of those units are, you know, just a single occupant or maybe two occupants, rather than, you know, larger families. But, you know, you've got areas in the city, as everybody knows, in Belvedere and the Highlands and Pawtuckaville and Centerville that are Christian Hill, that are where there's a good amount of single-family housing. But then also in West Centerville, you've got a high concentration of multifamily housing. Probably the highest in the city is what I believe.
A few years back, or maybe more than a few years, it was the goal of the city fathers and mothers to, in part at least, to bring more folks into the downtown, to attract often empty nesters and others, and to fill up the new condominium spaces throughout the downtown. I think at one time, the word was that there were as many as maybe 3,000 condominiums in the downtown. Is that number right? And have we met that goal? Have we filled up those condominiums?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that the downtown has gotten to the point where it's one of the largest neighborhoods in the city. You know, and the condominiums in the downtown area sell for, and I think Ray will bear this out, sell for a higher price than condominiums in any of the neighborhoods. Now, part of that is that most of the condominiums in the downtown, or many of them at least, are very large, you know, in excess of 1,000 feet, whereas a two-bedroom in one of the neighborhoods might be, you know, 600-700 square feet, and that would be a pretty decent size. So there's a, you know, that makes it a little bit different. But the condominiums in the downtown sell for, they're hotter and they sell for a higher price than condominiums in any of the neighborhoods.
There was a time, I suppose, not all that long ago, when you could pretty readily find an attractively priced home in the city of Lowell. And certainly, as you say, there was a time, and I know I live in the downtown, when a good number of those condominiums weren't yet filled. Now, folks like Ray and Ed tell me that's not so much the case today. Or is it a buyer's market or a seller's market here in the city of Lowell? Is it tough to find housing, or is it not so tough? Is there a surplus of units or a shortage?
I will
Let
say
Ray
it's-
speak first about that.
It's definitely a seller's market. To give you an example, we were talking earlier, I checked yesterday, there was one property in Pawtucketville, one multifamily property for sale in Pawtucketville. Only one. You know, typically you'd have 10 to 15 multifamily houses in Pawtucketville for sale. There's limited inventory in every single neighborhood, every single area. Both downtown condos, they're all filled. You know, one of the things Ed was talking about is they do sell for more. They sell for more cost per square foot because they're more desirable, because people like the fact that they can walk. I know Ed was mentioning that earlier when we were talking. They can walk to the train, they have public transportation, they can get to everything that they need. So there's a desire for that. They do like that, and I'm finding those prices to be very high. But there's limited inventory in every aspect. Even commercial that's been lagging behind in this area, I'm seeing some of those commercial rents even increasing and the vacancy rate decreasing.
How long has this trend been going on? You're on the front lines of this, Ed. You regularly meet with first-time home buyers
Sure.
and others. There seems to be a demographic trend toward moving to the Merrimack Valley and to Lowell in particular. I'm sure Ed and Ray and those who've served in office like to think that that's as a result of good management, and hopefully it is. And a lot of the amenities that Lowell has to offer. I live in the downtown. I know that right next door is an organic cafe, and right over here is a Greek restaurant, and right up the street is a pizza place, and I can go to the theater, and I can go see a Spinners game, and I can go to the Songus Museum. So I like to think
Absolutely.
that there's a lot of amenities in Lowell that bring you into this city, not to mention the historic park and the university and the community college and all of our nonprofits, which have so much to offer. But in terms of trends, Ed, what have you seen over the last number of years? Where are people coming from?
Okay, well, Lowell's got a lot of those attractions, and it's a draw for people because they don't want to just come to a place where there's nothing to do. So Lowell offers a lot of opportunities. Like you said, you can go to the theater one night, maybe to the baseball game over at La Lachère Park. What I've noticed is that in the last 3 years, there's been a 19% increase in the median deed price, according to Dick Howe's 2017 report. And so we're seeing that trend here, how prices are going up here. But they're also going up in Boston dramatically. In other places, I used to live in Salem, Mass. On the North Shore. I don't even think that's affordable anymore. So people will say, okay, you know what, I want a house. I want a backyard, I want a little land, I may not get that in the city. Let me move up here. So I saw a trend starting in about 2015. I remember sitting down with the home buyer. We got him some down payment assistance through the city of Lowell, and they bought a nice two-family for $250,000. You can't touch a two-family in decent shape for probably about $360,000. Correct me if I'm wrong. In decent shape. If you get something cheaper, it's going to need some work. So what I started noticing was people were moving from the Maldens, the Everetts, maybe other parts of the North Shore via it's closer to work and it's more affordable. I ran into somebody at the supermarket that I knew when I was down in Salem. I says, what are you doing up here? Well, we sold our house, we got a lot more money, and we come up here, buy a house, which to them was affordable, and have money left over. That's what's happening. People are either selling in more expensive areas and migrating this way. Some people like the fact that we have a commuter line. It's only 40 minutes to Boston. I live in Haverhill, that's an hour and 5 minutes. So people are gonna choose, and they're gonna use the commuter rail, they're gonna come here. A lot of the apartment complexes that are being built near transportation are attractive. The younger generation, millennials, they don't want cars. And maybe I have the wrong name for that generation, but I went to a wedding, somebody's at the seaport, they don't own a car in Boston. So people want to be near transportation, a city that has things to offer like Lowell. So we are very attractive to a lot of people. And so that has driven the rents up, it's driven the housing prices, and I mean, I have to tell you, it's getting very difficult for people to get into a home. The average person, let's say they're making $40,000 a year, it's not bad, but if they've got a car payment, that might throw them out of the game. And you'd say, well, a car payment's not that much, but that's how the prices of housing has gone up, where it's had an impact. So people have really got to educate themselves, get their finances in order, keep the debt down, and you've got to look. If there were 10 houses on the market, you've got 10 buyers, that'd be a perfect world, but we don't have the inventory. And according to the report from Dick Howe, the prices of homes are now at the point where we were at the bubble. So Lowell is at 97% of that price point back in '05. And so what that means, according to Dick's report, is that he anticipates there will be more sales. We have to see if that translates into a good market, if that's going to actually happen. I would hope so. But what happens with that market is, if there's more people that feel they can get some money for their house now and they're not underwater anymore, then they're probably going to sell. They may refinance. They've been paying down their mortgages for all these years. But again, we have a price point. If they sell here, where are they going?
So the good news for those of us who live in Lowell, I guess, is that the value of our homes has gone up. The good news of those of us which I assume is most or all of us who care about the community, is that people want to stay and grow their families and grow their businesses in the city of Lowell. The challenge is for young people, and maybe not so young people who are moving from a rental situation to a single-family home. They come into Ray Booten's real estate office and they say, Mr. Booten, I've seen you on TV, I've watched you in the school committee meetings, I want to use you as my real estate person, I want to find a home. What do you say?
First you start them off, ask them a few questions. When do they want to do it? Are they looking to do it right away or not? One of the first things I do is ask them to get pre-qualified by their local bank if they have somebody, or a mortgage officer. Then they'll know if they can afford what they think they can afford, or explain to them what $1,500 a month in a mortgage payment will be. Most people don't understand what $1,500 a month amortized over 30 years at 4%. I think it's $315,000, and they're surprised to hear that. Now, you touched on the point about buying the new car. If you have two $400 or $500 a month payments on the cars, there's $1,000 a month that's taken away from what you can afford. So getting them to a loan officer, getting them qualified. Now, I have first-time home buyers that are just starting out that need seed money. I send them the Merrimack Valley Partnership. Ed and I have worked together in the past. I just got a call from my daughter's friend who she graduated with. She's 24. She wants to buy a house. She said, can you help me? Asked a few questions. I'm giving them Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership's name to get them going. So that's one of the first things you do. Then you ask them what they're looking for. Where are they looking for? What's important to them? Do they work on 128 or Boston? Do they want to be on the south side of the Merrimack River, or do they mind the commute and come across to Centerville, Christian Hill, or Pawtuckaville, or even Drake, Tingsboro, that it's a little bit more peaceful. Lot size is a little bit bigger. So find out what they want, and then start showing them houses. Start showing them what they can afford in that price range, and help educate them. But the best thing I can do is help educate a buyer to a point where they walk into a house, they look around, they know the price, to say, this is a good deal. And they don't have to turn to me to say, is it a good deal? I've shown them enough properties, I've showed them what the market is, then they can decide for themselves and be confident. Education for them, helping them, that's what I do to help them.
What about the fact, Mayor Kennedy, that we've been a refugee resettlement area here in the city of Lowell for so many years? Those of us who've been involved with the Community Health Center know what a great place that is for introducing folks to the community and helping with housing and helping with health care and so on. But can we continue to do that in the city if, as Ed says and as Ray says, the availability of housing stock is diminished so considerably? What do we say to folks who come from another country who are looking for housing? Do we have places?
Yes, I think that we do have places, and I also think that what you're seeing in Lowell in recent years is a lot more home ownership with immigrants coming into the city than there was maybe 15 or 20 years ago. I think, you know, also it's worth pointing out as far as the inventory goes that in Pawtucketville, in the Acre, and in portions of the Highlands, the university's had a major impact.
In what way?
On a major impact in the rental rates, and a major impact on the availability of units. For this reason.
So you mean that landlords have seen the opportunity to raise rents because they have
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of a captive audience?
Absolutely, because what students tend to do is you almost rent the place by the bedroom rather than by the unit. So if you have a 2 or 3 bedroom place, you can put 3 to 6 students there instead of just one family and get a lot more rent than you can from that family.
Which is another reason why they're not going to sell.
Well, that's one of the reasons probably why there was only one 2-family available in Pawtucketville. I mean, one example that I can give, I've done several appraisals for developers who have developed properties in those neighborhoods for student housing. And one of the developers who I've done several appraisals for over the past couple of years told me that he was at the closing for a unit that he was buying in the Acre, a multi-unit property in the Acre. And the landlord and the owner or the seller had owned it for a long, long time and was renting, say, a 2-bedroom unit for about $800. And at the closing, for the amount of money that the developer was willing to pay, the owner was surprised that he would pay that price if he could only get those kind of rents. And the developer assured the owner after the closing was done that he was going to be able to double those rents once he went in and redid the building. Now, this particular developer goes in and almost guts the place and turns it into a pretty spiffy unit. So that, when parents come, they look at the unit, and they're happy to have, if it's a safe neighborhood and it's a good, clean apartment in good condition, they're happy to pay that rent. And there's a lot of students at the university that prefer that type of housing to dorm housing for a variety of reasons. But I think that's had a big impact on rental rates and on inventory in the city, particularly in those neighborhoods,
Yeah.
which are, at least in portions of those neighborhoods, are densely populated.
Yeah. Well, now here the question is begged, I guess. Maybe we're wading into a little bit of a controversial issue here. But in a city like Lowell, which in terms of square miles is, 14
Yeah.
square miles, it's a pretty small community, and we've been around for a couple hundred years, and it seems like every square inch is made use of. But we do have kind of a large area in the Hamilton Canal District. And so someone might ask, someone who may not know too much about what's been going on, well, if we have this housing, paucity of housing units, and shortage of housing units, and there are so many folks who would like to buy, and so many folks who might like to live in the downtown now that all the existing condominiums have been used up. Why not dedicate a sizable portion of the Hamilton Canal area to some kind of housing, market rate, affordable, mixture, what? What does the former mayor say about that?
Well, we have, I've been a big proponent of pushing the Hamilton Canal Innovation District. And I would like for it to be reserved for industrial development, for life
industrial?
sciences, yes. However, the city council, and I voted for it as well, did put aside 2 parcels that will be for housing. And there'll probably be, when that project gets done, it'll probably be about 225 units of housing, some of which will be affordable. Most projects like that, particularly of that size, are going to include some affordable housing just because that's what makes the financing work for the project. So it's absolutely going to be there. I would prefer that there not be any more than that. But those two parcels, we're in a little bind over at the Hamilton Canal Innovation District in that we still have to put the infrastructure in place, and we should be starting on that in the spring, but that's going to take about a year to complete. You know, and I'm talking about the utilities and the roads and so forth, and the signature bridge that all has to be done. That's going to take a little while. And also what should be starting this year is the widening of Thorndike Street, which will eventually provide better access to the Hamilton Canal Innovation District. Those things are important before there's going to be any commercial or industrial development in that area. But the two parcels that we've dedicated to housing and those housing proposals, they're not as dependent on the access. They're certainly dependent on the infrastructure, but not so much the access. But I would point out that outside of the Hamilton Canal Innovation District, there have been other sizable projects that have been approved.
Such as?
Such as Dave Daly has one down across from the Lowell Memorial Auditorium that should eventually get underway. We had a very sizable project out on Wellman Ave in the Highlands that has been stopped for some reason that's unbeknownst to me. So those would be two that are pretty sizable. We're right now considering, I think, the over at Cabot Street, that vacant lot, they'll be going before the planning board next month with a proposal that, you know, may fly or may not fly. So there are other proposals that are sizable that will provide additional units of housing in the city.
And roughly, how many units do you know at Dave's place on Merrimack Street?
Oh boy, I'm not sure.
Okay, how about the one you're talking about in the Hamilton Canal District, two parcels? How many units?
About 225 units.
220.
Yeah,
And then there are
roughly.
X number, how many at Sal Lepoli's place over near the...
Sal Lepoli's is another one. That's, I think that's probably about 100 units.
So we can see maybe 1,000 units or so going online over the next
Probably
number of years.
several hundred if they all get going,
Okay.
if they were all to get going.
Now, I hear, I don't know how true it is, maybe Ed can tell me or Ray, that the LHA is planning on selling about 87 of scattered site units, just displacing as many as 250 individuals. Is that something that folks know about?
I've heard that. I don't know the details of that plan. We should hear about that pretty soon, but yeah, I think that is the case. You know, the other thing, if I could just sort of break off from that, John DeAngelis, who's a developer downtown, has done several projects in the downtown area, and the Lowell Sun building, where the Lowell Sun offices were right in County Square, he's putting units in there that are in excess of $500,000, and he's been pretty successful. And I spoke with one couple that was moving from Littleton, and they were downsizing, and they were going from Littleton to County Square and paying north of $500,000 per unit. If somebody said that to me 10 years ago, I'd say, no way is anybody ever going to do that. But they are doing it. And John DeAngelis' model is somewhat unique too, and because what he does is he sells you first space within the building. And then after you buy the space within the building, so you can buy 1,200, 1,800, 2,800, whatever you want, and then after you do that, then he builds the unit for you in the building. It's a little different than the way that it's done. And I think when he finishes with that building, he's also supposed to do the press building, which is along Prescott Street, the glass building. And I believe that will have commercial units or maybe work-live space.
So is it time to
multi-story.
move into the bid idea, you think, Ed, the business improvement district here in the city of Lowell?
Well, I'll tell you, the bid has been an uphill fight, and it's been tough, but I haven't given up on the bid
Good.
at all, and I do expect to come back with a proposal that will be a little bit different this year, maybe a different tact, that I hope will be a little bit more successful,
Yeah.
so.
I just got an email the other day, Ed, from my brother, who is an architect in the city of Sarasota in Florida, and they have a bid that they've had, a business improvement district, for many years. And it was their weekly newsletter or something about all the things that are happening in the bid. And Ed and I have talked over the last number of months, and a couple of years now, I guess,
Yeah.
about the idea of having a business improvement district in the city of Lowell. And with more and more housing units being filled up, it makes more sense, I think, to explore something like that.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I was at the Mass Municipal Annual Meeting and Trade Show down in Boston on Friday, and I ran into Tom Moses, who used to be the Assistant City Manager under Bernie Lynch, and now he's the Town Manager in Hudson. And they've done a bid And they're I think the 5th one in the city, and in the state. And so what I think is that if Hudson can do it, why can't we do it?
We can do it.
It just
Have you
was,
been to downtown Hudson?
yes, I have.
They're, okay, good. They're modeled now after Portsmouth and Newburyport, and it's beautiful. It's very, very
You know,
nice.
Ray, I can't tell you how many folks, I had a deposition today, and we had a lawyer from Boston, a woman from Weston, Mass., and some other folks. They were, our office is on the corner of Shattuck and Middle Streets in the city of Lowell. How impressed they were in walking the cobblestone streets of downtown Lowell. I mean, they didn't know what restaurant. You can go over here to Organic Cafe, you can go over here to, I don't want to keep mentioning specific restaurants, but there are 5 or 6 in our immediate area. Despite the cold and the biting wind today, they really enjoyed the walk around the city of Lowell. You know, the historic buildings and the National Park and the cobblestone streets, and it was very, I never knew, they said, that Lowell had these kinds of things
Yeah.
to offer. And so, well, let me ask, we have a couple of minutes before our break, and I want to ask you in all candor to give me a sense, because each of you has been working in the housing field for some time, and for many years, as a matter of fact, so all of you have expertise in the area. The biggest issue confronting home buyers today, A, and then B, just in a word or two, where we need to head in order to respond to that challenge?
I would say what we do is just to give people an idea. We educate people. We have a 4-night workshop, 2.5 hours each night from A to Z on the process of buying a house, getting good first-time home buyer loans, accessing the money from the city of Lowell or the LDFC, and helping people achieve that goal. And that little help that they get really makes a difference. If it wasn't for some of those programs, some of these folks wouldn't be in homes today. And the people that bought in 2015, you know, might have been a stretch for them. They're very happy now, because what I hear is that we need 2 things: more inventory, and hopefully the prices stabilize. But then we've got the unknown. What happens with interest rates? That goes up, purchasing power goes down. So if we have a good economy and people can stay gainfully employed, and prices level out, and we have more inventory, you know, that would be like the perfect situation. What I think is a hindrance is that wages don't go up as quickly as inflation or as the economy as a whole. So people have impediments, such as they need to have more savings. We are fully focused on telling people to stay out of debt, not to get into the expensive cars. Because I tell people, if you want a nice car, you won't be getting into a home unless you're making a huge amount of money, and that car payment is not going to kill you. So those are the impediments. I don't think we can change the market. People are going to come to Lowell, and they're willing to pay the money. I mean, I've seen it. You're not going to stop this because it's so expensive elsewhere.
And that's actually a good thing. People want
Yeah.
to move into the cities.
And downtown is going to get a lot of younger people that, I mean, even older people who, as Mr. Kennedy said, had sold their properties. And I knew a woman and her husband who sold out of Concord and moved to downtown. People are doing
We
that.
meet folks from all over Greater Boston who moved to Lowell. They've sold their homes in Newton or Wayland or wherever it may be, and they've found that Lowell can be a very attractive place, and they might be an artist, or they might just simply be a retiree, and they move in the downtown. They can go to the theater, they can go to the ballpark, they can go to a good restaurant, and that was the goal, and that was the
Right.
dream, and we're beginning to see it realized. Ray, just a minute or so.
Sure.
You're the appraiser, you're the broker, you're the agent. What's the biggest challenge?
So you need more inventory, and we've done such a good job in the city of Lowell that we've created our own problem. We do have people that have grown up here that aren't leaving like they do in many other communities. So our children want to stay here. Other people want to come here to be part of it. If you look at not just the housing stock, we've increased the housing stock, but the quality of the housing stock in 20, 25 years that I've been appraising residential properties or been showing properties to people is so much better. The conditions people are living under now are bringing more people in because they want to be here. So you start doing such a great job, you start making Lowell like Newburyport, comparing us to Manchester, downtown Nashua, well, then people want to be here, and that's forcing out some of the people that can't afford
We
it.
used to be saying, and our political leaders used to be saying over the last couple of decades, we want folks to stay in this community.
Right.
Well, they are staying
They
in this
are.
community,
Right.
so it's kind of a good problem to have. We'll get into that in more detail in the second session of the program. I'm Mike Gallagher. We're here on Civic Sanctuary. We're here with former Mayor Ed Kennedy, current school committee member Ray Booton, and all about good man Ed Alcantara. We'll be back shortly. Please stay with us.
This is 7-year-old Sarah. She dreams of becoming a teacher in the future, but right now she doesn't know how to get there. So how does Sarah stay on track? One day, Sarah's mom stumbled upon the Boys and Girls Club and encouraged Sarah to join. Now, Sarah is part of a community where she can build leadership, art, health, and life skills, all while having a ton of fun with new friends that support her no matter what. Thanks to her mother's decision, Sarah is now on the right track to a bright future. If Sarah can join, so can you! Help our kids reach their full potential. For more information, contact the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Lowell.
Hi, I'm Alana Flood. What's happening this week in Lowell? Find out. Join me for LTC News Thursdays at 6 on Channel 8.
I'm Mike Gallagher. We're here with Civic Sanctuary. We're back for our second and final session. We're talking about housing issues here in the city of Lowell. We've got a very distinguished panel, former Mayor Ed Kennedy, current school committee member out of the Greater Lowell Votes, Ray Booton, and housing counselor over at the Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership, Ed Alcantara. So I want to go back to you, Mayor Kennedy, and maybe play the devil's advocate a little bit. A lot of us have been involved with some of our great anti-poverty issues. I mean, anti-poverty agencies and nonprofits here in the city. I guess if we go back to the Johnson administration, that's the terminology used. We've got really first-rate people involved in some amazingly effective organizations like CTI and CBA and UTEC, and they really do great work, and you and I and others have been involved in those organizations over the years. But there are those who say, again playing the devil's advocate, that poverty might have become too big a business in gateway cities, in Lowell, but in gateway cities generally speaking. And now we're in a situation where, as Ed says, as Ray says, there's a shortage of housing. There's just no more land really to do it. So we need more space. And at a time when we need more space, is there a conflict between those agencies who are looking to fill that space potentially with low-income housing, with so-called affordable housing, and those who might say, like yourself, it's important for the city's future to have an active innovation district in the Hamilton Canal area? What do you say to those who raise that argument?
I think, we're a big city. We're the fourth largest city in the Commonwealth, and we have to be able to take care of everybody across the spectrum. And that would be the economic spectrum, the age, politics, and just across the way. And we should be able to provide housing and other services for everybody. We have several anti-poverty agencies or private nonprofits that do different services in the city, but that's common probably in just about any city throughout the Commonwealth. And I've been in cities, and I can think of 2 or 3 right off the bat, that have much more of that than what we have here in Lowell. So while it may look like it's big business, it's just, I think the nonprofits here do a good job. And there's always going to be a job to do, just because we are a city, and we're not going to have all of one type of people. We're going to have a menagerie. and that's the way it should be. And that's what brings about a lot of the vibrancy and makes the city attractive.
Well, along those lines, I'm going to put the mayor again in the hot seat, if you don't mind. There are those who talk about the concept of two Lowells. It came up, for example, in the high school debate. I think you might have heard about that over the last couple of year or so. Belvedere versus the rest of the city. And it could also come up in this context. You know, those who can afford the $500,000 condominiums in the downtown, and those, as Ed say, who are struggling to buy a home for the first time. What do you say to those of us, or those in the community who might say there really are two Lowells?
I'm not sure that I agree that there's two Lowells. I think that there has to be room for both. For people that are, that have done well or are doing well and that are a little bit more affluent, they're an important part of the city as well. You don't want to lose those people. It would be very bad for the city if you did. At the same time, the city is not going to be filled with those. There is going to be people that are low-income people, and they belong here too, and there's a place for them. I think that government's position would be, or responsibility, is to make sure that everybody has an equal voice. And I think that to an extent we try to do that. The lawsuit, if I can get into the lawsuit right off a little quicker than maybe we wanted to, is
Which lawsuit is that?
the having to do with the makeup of the city council and the way the city council is elected. We have 9 city councils. We have plenty of government in Lowell. Every city councilor is at large. And every city councilor feels as if they represent all of the city. But it doesn't matter if all 9 city councilors feel that way. What matters is do the people feel that way? And so if there are people who feel that they don't have representation, that's something that has to be addressed and has to be fixed. That's what matters. What you want to do is have everybody be comfortable with the government that they have. And I think what the lawsuit points to is that maybe that doesn't exist right now and we have to change it. On the other hand, I think that in this recent election, we had a minority person top the ticket for city council. We had, for the first time ever in the history of the city, a minority person elected to the school committee. It's amazing to me that Dominic Lay is the first person ever in the history of Lowell as a minority to be elected to the school committee. I also think, though, in general, as far as the school committee goes, that more people should be running for the school committee. It befuddles me why there aren't more people running for the school committee than what there are. We have students with engaged parents, and I don't know why those parents wouldn't want to be on the school committee, even if it was going to be for a 2 or 4 or 6 year term. And we've tried to take measures. We increased the salary, and part of increasing the salary, we doubled the salary actually for the school committee, and part of that was to try to get more people to run and to find it be more attractive. But that didn't work out this time. Maybe next time it will be like that. But I think that we are making inroads, but that's what's really important, is not whether or not the city councilors think that they represent everybody. It's does everybody else think the city councilors do that?
One of the answers might be, as Ed says, is people come in and they've got 2 or 3 different jobs and they're trying to make ends meet and they're learning about how I can buy a home and they're applying for low interest loans through the LDFC or whatever it may be, and there's probably not a lot of time to do that kind of thing. But it also speaks to the issue of whether there are certain segments of the community that do have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
You've been very involved, Ray, and Ed as well, and even though you don't live in the community, and a lot of us have tried to be very involved, but there's many more folks who, at least you hear, feel like they don't really have a sense of what's going on, or feel that they don't have a voice in what's going on. So are you saying that you are supportive of the goals of the lawsuit? Or are you saying that we need to do more study? What is your position?
Well, my position, first of all, I think that we do more than we did years ago. We have neighborhood groups that at least provide some sort of a connection directly to the city council. However, it depends on who shows up at each of those neighborhood groups. And if there's a big issue, there might be a lot of people that would show up in the neighborhood meeting. But if there aren't, then you may just have a dozen or so, of regular people that would, that regularly attend the meeting, and that's it. We need to do better than that. I am in agreement with the goals of the lawsuit, in that I do think that we should try to do a better job. And what I've pointed to in the past is the city of Worcester, which also has planning government just like Lowell. But what they do is they have a mix of at-large councilors and district councilors. And I think that that's something that we should take a look at very seriously. Having said that, my study of who's been elected in Worcester since that time is that most of the minority people that have been elected at large rather than by the district. And therefore, it's something that has to be looked at carefully. But I'd like to see, I think that, I think it's a concern for a lot of people, and I think it's something that we have to look at seriously. And I would expect that at the next election, with the next election cycle, there would be a referendum on the ballot asking people what they want to do.
Another referendum?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let me ask about the media. We have, even though you live out of Lowell, we have a great newspaper here,
Yes,
the Lowell
the
Sun.
Lowell Sun.
It's actually called the Sun.
Yes, yes, I know
Because it
that.
functions outside of the area,
Absolutely.
as well as Lowell. Ray knows that, of course, and we're all friendly with the folks over at the WCAP, which is our only local
Yep.
radio station. What more, Ray Booton? I know you're an elected official, so you have to be a little careful, but what more can the media do to let folks know about some of these housing challenges that we're confronted with? Good news and maybe more challenging news in this community.
I mean, from both aspects, the WCAP, Teddy Panos' show, I've been invited in probably I've been there 6 or 7 of the last 8 weeks to come in and talk about real estate, talk about how people can find a rental, how they can find a home, and giving real estate advice. And he just asked me this morning to make it a weekly thing every Friday.
So that's great.
I'll be talking about these topics. Could be an appraisal issue, could be how to get into meet Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership, different trip ups they can do. So I asked one day, I came in and brought donuts. He says, "You want to sit down and talk about real estate?" I did, and then it kept becoming a thing that he said, "We should do this every week. You have got good information." I've also had good and bad experiences with the Lowell Sun. As a real estate, when something came up, I'm in the process of selling a local market, Cody's Market. Told them it's been in existence for 100 years. The owner wants to retire, and they did a great story. So I also ran a youth baseball league for 15 years, and anytime we had somebody, 35 years of service, they were right out there with a photographer. So I find a lot of times if you communicate with them and ask them for something, they're glad to get the story to give it out. From a political standpoint, what Ed was talking about, why people don't run for political office is, I'll use the expression, no good deed goes unpunished. There could be something totally innocuous that you had no control out of, and the newspaper wants to sell newspapers. What's the dirt? What's the, they'll call up and say, "What happened? Tell us the inside story." They're not focused on the fact that we were a level 1 school. It's that, I don't know, a student was speeding down the road, or a teacher, was speeding down the road and got a ticket on the way to school. Like, why the negative? So I get called on that. I've got my name in the paper, and that's what I think a lot of people don't want when they're running for office. I have thicker skin. You said I may have to hold back. I don't hold back. I am who I am. But that's what some people don't want. They don't want to be the center of attention. They don't want their name in the paper associated with something that happened wrong. So
How do we address that? How do we address that if the media is going to cover a student who got a speeding ticket as opposed to the school's moved into a level 1 category? How do we make sure that the good news gets out? How do we make sure that the good work that Ed Alcantara is doing
I think
with
social,
home buyers?
I think
gets out?
social media is a huge influence. They have Facebook pages on Lowell High School, on Greater Lowell Tech, to notify parents, people who are interested in the school, to get the other positives, the good things that we're doing. When the swim team goes undefeated, we're going to get that out there, and people that care about it are going to know it. So social media is a big help. It's correcting a reporter, and the reporters to me have been very, very fair. I haven't been misquoted. I've been honest with them, they've been honest with me. If I don't want to answer a question, I just say it's confidential and I can't answer it if I can't.
How about social media for you? Do you make use of social media in your business?
Yeah, we do. When we publish the Home Buyer of the Month, Jim does a Facebook blast and it reaches a lot more people. I mean, people are getting these stories, and what that is we profile a home buyer, whether they got down payment or not, because there's people who didn't get down payment, they did it on their own without the help. And that money is a loan, by the way. It's not free money. They have to pay it back. But there are people who just want to share their story and their challenges. And so we've been lucky with the media. We've been on the show with Teddy Panos, WUML, LTC. So we're very happy. The Sun has done several articles. They get the Home Buyer of the Month, and they might like the article, and then they say, hey, can we interview this home buyer? So we're getting the word out that we're here, we're helping people. That's the good news with the media. We have control over some of what we can do here. We don't have control over the Boston media. And, you watch 11 o'clock news if you're up that late, and if there's one little bad thing that happens in Lowell, and I think of the poor child that was killed by the pit bull, and people start thinking all these bad things about Lowell. Well, what about all the good things? The Boston media isn't covering that. We can't control that. I mean, maybe to some extent. I'm not a public relations guy, but there's a lot of good things, and we need to really push that out there. But I think that the media in town in the city, I think has been very receptive on our end.
Yeah.
And there's so much bad news. It's nice to have a couple of good stories, like Ray said.
So Ray, a first-time home buyer wants to move up here from the North Shore or something like that.
Okay.
Or a place south of Boston. It's a little bit too pricey down there. Why not go up? I've heard some good things about the city of Lowell, the university, the community college, the innovation district, the new courthouse, whatever it may be. Some of the things that you as a real estate broker may talk about to impress folks, to persuade them to consider the city. I assume you talk about cultural amenities, the MRT, and our art galleries, and sports opportunities at the Songus Arena and Lasher Park and so on, great restaurants, and other kinds of museums and other kinds of opportunities in the area. What else do you do to sell, so to speak, someone on this community? Because part of your job is to sell the community, right?
Not as a real estate agent.
No?
I do not, I may like a certain area, I may like a certain lot size, a house style. My job is to listen to my clients and find out what they're looking for. Now, if they say we want something with nightlife, if we want something that has some culture, a shop that describes what Lowell is, then I can bring them to Lowell. Or they may say we want southern New Hampshire, where I would go to Nashua. Or they say we want rural, real rural, and I'm bringing them out to Brookline, New Hampshire, or Dunstable, or Groton. So as much as I'm here to sell Lowell as Greater Lowell Tech, school committee member and proud resident of the city of Lowell, my job as a real estate agent is to be an advocate for my people of what they want.
Well, let me rephrase the question. Let's assume they say, why Lowell?
Then I could give them
What do you say?
many different answers. Why Lowell? Because you're easy to get to work. You're close to 495, Route 3, 93. You're close to New Hampshire to get up north. You're close to 128, so you have the access. You have the commuter rail, and
And
you
then
have a
they
good.
say, well, I don't need to worry about that, I'm retired.
Okay. What do you want to do at night?
And they
Do you want to
say,
be part of a community? Do you want the senior center? We have a great senior center that does a lot. We have a lot of volunteer opportunities for you. You like baseball? Do you like hockey? Do you like basketball? We have UMass Lowell here, so we have all that. We have the spinners. There's many different things. The MRT that they have, this Golden Gloves you can go to. Like, you can just go through a litany. If you look
to
at
take courses at
everything,
the local university.
courses at the local university, the Winterfest, the Folk Festival, and now they're starting to do weekend festivals. That's, I think, going to be a real hit.
The music series.
They've been doing that.
Oh, yeah.
The music series that they have in the summer, but the food trucks that they did, those things keep it innovative here versus maybe a different community. So there are so many things that I could tell them of things that they want, but I have to ask them first, what do you like to do? What do you think you're going to like to do?
Okay. How about this question, Ed? A new home buyer, young families watching this program, and they really have no idea. You guys are very knowledgeable and sophisticated and experienced in those, but do I need a lawyer? Do I need a broker? How am I going to get a loan? What do I need to do? They come to you and they take the home buyer program, right?
Right.
And tell us, how many weeks is that? How many days is that? How long does it take?
It's 4 nights. We run the courses probably every 2 weeks. We do them in Khmer, English, and Spanish. And what happens is the Khmer and Spanish are on Saturdays every other month. And what happens is we take people through the steps. The first thing Jim does on night 1 is he spends about an hour going through the role of the professionals. He explains.
By professionals, you mean?
Yeah, like, okay, you're a home buyer. You're going to need to find a buyer agent. You're going to have to get pre-approved first, because we go into the steps is taking a course, finding out your budget, what can you afford, where are you comfortable. You don't want to pay $1,700 if you're comfortable at $1,200. So then, you get to the point where you're going to get into the pre-approval, the pre-qualification, checking your credit. And step number 6 in our platform is to get the real estate agent. Once you've got all the financing set up, if you're going to get down payment, if it's either City of Lowell or LDFC, what loan program, MHP1, some of the local in-house programs that some of the lenders have are attractive. And then we send them to the real estate agent, and now they're ready to go. There's no glitch because they've been pre-approved. And then that's the process. But what normally happens is we have a real estate agent that comes in, an attorney, a home inspector, and a lender. And after they're done with the workshop, I send an email, and I will set up a private consultation for anybody who's gone through the class. It's free. And I look at their credit, I look at their debts, I look at their income, I look at their budget. I formulate a plan, say, you're ready to go. Your credit's exactly where it needs to be. You've got X amount of dollars, but you're a little short. Let's get you some down payment money. We can do the LDFC. Make a little too much for City of Lowell. I explain the program. We get everybody on board so that the real estate agent and the lender know what they're doing. And then they're off to the races. And, but
And all of this is free?
well, the course is $125 for 2
$125.
people. But it's a great program because you're going to be fully educated. It's going to make Ray's job easier. And I'm sure you can tell the difference between somebody who's taken home buyer education and somebody who hasn't. You're going to get a lot less questions. And they're going to be more confident, as Ray says, when they look at a house and they're going through the process. They're not going to be nervous.
So if they want to be part of this program, they call you?
They can call us, Jim or I, 978-459-8490.
And you have a website?
Yep, mvhp.org.
mvhp.org.
Yep, yep.
Or they can call Ray Booton. And where do they reach Ray Booton?
Call me on my cell, 978-502-8352. I love helping people, so,
Yeah, whether you want
I'm
a
lucky.
broker or an appraiser.
and if I'm representing you as a broker, it's as a broker, not an appraiser. I got to make sure I stipulate that. Our appraisal rules are very strict.
Yeah.
If I'm working as your agent, it's your agent.
And I know you're not a residential appraiser
Right.
or broker, but I want to maybe finish off with you, if you don't mind, the program. We've got a couple of minutes left, and I know how involved you have been over the last number of years in a whole number of important issues, including the high school issue, and that's obviously going to be a major focus of this community over the next number of years. We have the Judicial Center that's going up before our eyes, which is going to be amazing, and the Innovation District, and all sorts of exciting housing projects at the Sun Building and Dave Daly's and Salapoli's and others. Tell me what this city looks like 5 years from today if things go the way we'd like them to go. And I'm, or a relative of mine wants to move in and live in downtown Lowell. What does the city look like then?
I think that in 5 years, if we can get the Hamilton Canal Innovation District underway and fill it up, that 2 things will happen. One is that will expand over towards Appleton Street and over towards that way, where there's quite a few blighted properties that could probably be reused in a higher use. And that's where the expansion will come. It would be the rest of the GM area, if you will. I think that if we can put a good amount of jobs and businesses down in that district, that helps the downtown tremendously, just because it's so close. Back in its heyday, there was a time when Lowell had, Courier Citizen and Educator and a whole bunch of businesses up in that Jackson Street area. that served the city well, and those have all left. But if we can put in businesses, and I talk about the life sciences because those are good paying jobs, and life science industries pay a lot in rent, and we have the university, which should be attractive to them. And if we can do that in the Hamilton Canal Innovation District, I think that makes a big difference. I think that when you're selling real estate or trying to attract businesses, you're selling the city. Ray knows that one of the big factors in housing prices is how good is the school system. So if you have a very good school system, those prices in those communities are going to be higher than elsewhere. It's the same thing with other amenities and services that the community has to offer, and Lowell has a lot, as you spoke about earlier. And the more we can do along those lines, I think the better off we'll be. And real estate prices, just like other types of economic development, if you raise residential prices, the price of homes or the value of homes, that all helps the tax base. And you've got to be, you need to be able to generate the money, the city does, in order to provide quality services. And Lowell does provide quality services for its citizens.
Sounds like someone should run for mayor, huh? Do you have anything to add, Ed?
No, I'm just very happy that you invited me to be with the panel, and we're going to continue to help people buy homes. We also have people that have doctorate's degrees, master's degrees, people who haven't finished high school. So our classes are open. People want the education. It's the biggest investment in their life. So come see us. We'll help you.
Ray, last word?
Thank you for having me. It was a great
Okay.
time. I think we got a lot of information out.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Well, I want to thank Ed Alcantara
thank you,
from the
Michael.
Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership. You guys, you and Jim do great work over there, and we're very
Thank you.
appreciative of that work. Ray Booton appraisers and brokers and agents, and how do you have the time for all this stuff? And you coach baseball and everything else, and I know how busy your wife is as well. And
She has her 2 jobs. I have, or she has 3. I
she's
only
down
have,
to 3 now.
She has 3. I have 2. So
Okay. And of course, Mayor Kennedy, thank you for your service over the last number of years in 2 different times of Lowell's history, and we all are very appreciative of that. And keep up the good work.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for inviting me on. It's been a pleasure.
So that's our program. Thanks to Lowell Votes for sponsoring and producing this program. Thanks to LTC and the City of Lowell for giving us the opportunity to show this kind of programming. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. I'm Michael Gallagher. This is Civic Sanctuary. See you next time.